We're live here at St. Anne's Own College for CNN's Town Hall with former President Donald Trump.
It's a trap!
Your polls show that you are dominating the Republican race right now, but you are also under active federal investigation. Your first term ended with a deadly riot at the Capitol, and you still have not publicly acknowledged the 2020 election results.
That was a rigged election. If you look at the FBI, and Twitter, they call it Twitter files, made a big difference. If you look at
Mr. President, back to what you just said there, though, it was not a rigged election. It was not a stolen election. Can you publicly acknowledge that you did lose the 2020 election?
Let me just go on. If you look at True the Vote, they found millions of votes on camera, on government cameras. They were stuffing ballot boxes. So I think it's a very sad thing for our country. Our country has gone to hell. Our borders are bad. Our military has been bad. What's happened to inflation, it's just destroying our country. It's very sad what's happened in this administration. But we were energy independent. We were getting out of Afghanistan with strength and with dignity. And instead we got out, we looked like fools, probably the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
We have a lot of questions about the economy and foreign policy tonight. But what you just said there, Republican officials debunked those claims.
Who?
Republican officials in Georgia and every single state.
Give me a break.
We wanted to give you a chance to acknowledge the results.
We have elections that were horrible. People going to 28 different voting booths to vote, to put in 7 ballots apiece.
But Mr. President, I have to stop you there because there is no evidence of that. Your own election officials testified to that and have said that. We have questions about the claims that you're making tonight from voters on this topic.
Will you suspend polarizing talk of election fraud during your run for president?
Yeah, unless I see election fraud. If I see election fraud, I think I have an obligation to say it. The answer is yes, and I hope that it's going to be very straight up, because if it's going to be straight up, we're going to win the election.
So you will suspend talk, to his question, about the 2020 election on the campaign trail?
I guess we're going to just win. We're at a point now, we're getting so close. Let's just win it again and straighten out our country.
One other question on this.
Owned.
You once suggested terminating the Constitution. Do you stand by those comments?
I cherish our Constitution, but we have to live up to the Constitution. We weren't living up to the Constitution.
I was just saying there's no evidence of that election fraud. You did once tweet.
You're supposed to say that, but I'm glad you say that. But look,
that
was a horrible election. Unless somebody's very stupid, and I know you very well, you're not stupid at all, but you perhaps are given an agenda, or you have an agenda. And we have millions of people pouring into our country. And now they're getting rid of Title 42, which I put on, which kept people out that were sick and
Mr. President, we have a lot of questions about immigration to get to tonight. Do you have any regrets about your actions on January 6th?
One of the big problems was that Nancy Pelosi, Crazy Nancy as I affectionately call her.
You're crazy. I'm not. No, I'm not.
Crazy Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington were in charge, as you know, of security. And they did not do their job.
They're not in charge of the National Guard. You're in charge of the National Guard.
Well, I offered them National Guard. I said, we'll give you soldiers, we'll give you National Guard, we'll give you whatever you want. And they turned me down.
And in fact,
she turned me down. She turned me down in writing. They turned me down.
But why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. If you look, January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. What happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30.
Obliterated.
When it was clear they weren't being peaceful, why did you wait 3 hours to tell them to leave the Capitol? They listen to you like no one else. You know that.
They do. I agree with that. But
so why didn't you tell them to go home sooner?
Nancy Pelosi and the mayor are in charge. I assumed they were able to do their job. They weren't.
But Pelosi's not in charge of Capitol
security. And if you remember, I made a video, and I'm very proud of that video. I didn't have a script. I don't need scripts like a certain person that's in there right now.
The video.
End of quote. Repeat the line.
We have to have peace. Please go home. No, I
Well,
said that.
referring
You know
to
what
the
they
law and
did?
order there,
They took
Mr.
that
President.
down, and to this day, it hasn't been put up, and they've never put it back up. They had another one that they did the same
But that
thing.
video that you referenced there, it wasn't posted until 4:17 p.m.
No,
In
here's
that
another
3
one I
hours,
posted.
over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her.
Calling a cop a thug. It was disturbing to see and hear that person refer to a black law enforcement officer as a thug, an adjective he used many times to describe black men.
And she was a good person. She was a patriot.
One
There was
person
no
who was
reason
there-
there was no reason. Right after the election, they all met, the rhinos and the Democrats, and they worked out a plan to make sure that future vice presidents don't do what I said you could do.
That's not what happened. You're referring to the Electoral Count Act.
That's
I've
exactly
read that. There is no authority.
No,
legal
excuse
experts,
me.
including Republican legal experts, say that he does not have that authority, Mr. President.
Caitlin,
But I want to
why
move
did
on.
they change the law then, saying that you can't do it?
They didn't change the law. They strengthened the law because they were worried about
Oh, they
presidents
strengthened it,
exploiting.
meaning you could do it.
Destroyed.
That's not what it means.
Thank you. If you look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted now that the election was rigged. If
They
you
have
would have
not
sent
admitted
those
that, Mr.
votes back to
President.
many of those states, they would not come back in the affirmative.
Will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control, but I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know, they did and it'll be very early on. And they're living in hell right now.
So when it comes
they're
to
living in
pardons-
hell. And they're policemen, and they're firemen, and they're soldiers, and they're carpenters and electricians, and they're great people. Many of them are just great people.
They said people were there with love in their hearts and then sort of conceded as an aside. Some of them got out of control, but said, I'm going to let the people out of jail who beat up cops.
The president suggested he might pardon many, if not all of them. You survived January 6th. I think it's really important in this moment to champion the voices of victims. And as someone who is a victim that day, how does this all feel to you?
What we saw on January 6th was a dress rehearsal. Why else would you pardon people who perpetuated a terrorist attack on the United States Capitol, other than to support the person in a potential effort to do it again? This is a profoundly dangerous moment.
He also called the January 6 rioters great people and promised to pardon large part of them. How dangerous is this rhetoric, Liz?
Is incredibly dangerous.
Does that include the 4 Proud Boys members who were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy?
I don't know. I'd have to look at their case, but I will say in Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
A Manhattan jury found that
Sure.
you sexually abused the writer E. Jean Carroll and defamed her. You've denied this. But what do you say to voters who say it disqualifies you from being president?
Well, there aren't too many of them because my poll numbers just came out. They went up. Okay.
Obliterated.
I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy, John Johnson. He was a newscaster, a very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. Her dog or her cat was named Vagina. The judge wasn't allowed to put that in. All of these things but with her, they can put in anything. Access,
This
Hollywood,
was a jury
put in
of
anything.
9 people.
Just so you understand. Ready?
Wait for it.
I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President, can I
But
add to this?
think of it. Think of it.
I know you're recounting what she said, but Mr. President.
But let me just, if I could, because you asked the question.
This was a
just so
jury,
you understand,
though.
if I was walking in at the bar, because I was very famous then, if she was being raped, and by the way, they said she wasn't raped, okay? That was her charge. She wasn't.
They found that you sexually abused her.
What? Say what? They did. They said he didn't rape her. And
They did
I
not
didn't
say
do
that you
anything else either. You know what? Because I have no idea who the hell she is.
But, Mr.
I don't
President,
know who this woman
can I
is.
ask you?
We had a horrible Clinton-appointed judge. He was horrible. He allowed her to put everything in. He allowed us to put nothing in.
Mr. President,
this is a
you're
fake
recounting your version
story.
of events here right now to the audience.
I have no idea who the hell. She's a
Mr.
whack
President,
job.
you did not testify in person. You defended the comments that you made on that Access Hollywood tape about being able to grab women how you want. Do you stand by those comments?
I said, if you're famous and rich or whatever I said, and I said, women let you. I didn't say you grab. I said women let. You know, you didn't use that word. Women let you. Now, for a million years, this is the way it's been. If you're a famous person, if you're a star, and I'm not referring to myself, I'm saying people that are famous, people that are
You
stars,
were asked in the deposition,
people
do you
that are
consider
rich,
yourself to be a star,
people
and you
that are
said yes.
powerful, they tend to do pretty well in a lot of different ways, okay? And you would like me to take that back? I can't take it back because it happens to be true. I said it's been true for 1 million years, approximately 1 million years, perhaps a little bit longer than that.
So you stand by those comments?
Well, I don't want to lie.
Mr. President, we have a lot of questions.
Here's what she wants
Mr.
me to say.
President, let's
a
get to
rich
the
and
audience
famous
questions
person
tonight.
has no advantage over anyone else. Well, you do have an advantage. And I say unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
You said fortunately or unfortunately,
Well,
but Mr.
fortunately or
President, we have a lot of
unfortunately for
audience
her.
questions to get to tonight.
What is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
Still Snoop Dogg and D.I.
We created the greatest economy in history. Here's the story. They made energy so high, and energy is all invasive. It is massive as an industry and as a cost. It lifted everything. If
Mr.
you
President,
made,
staying
if you
on the
made
economy.
donuts, if you made, no matter what you did, and we had inflation, the likes of which I guess we haven't had, as I said, for 52 years, but I think more than that. We had no inflation. We had the lowest energy prices we've had in decades. This country was rocking and rolling. And by the way, we had the most secure border in the history of our
Mr.
country.
President, we
and now we have the
have more questions on the economy.
What do you think about the United States' current debt situation, and how can we move forward?
If they don't give you massive cuts, you're going to have to do a default because we're spending money like drunken sailors.
So
You know
just
the
to be clear,
expression?
Mr. President, you think the U.S. should default if the White House does not agree to the spending cuts Republicans
Well,
are
you
demanding?
might as well do it now because you'll do it later. Because we have to save this country. Our country is dying. Our country is being destroyed by stupid people, by very stupid people.
You once said that using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge just could not happen. You said that when you were in the
That's
Oval
when
Office.
I was president.
So why is it different now that you're out of office?
Because now I'm not president.
Owned.
We're spending $7 trillion on, much of it on nonsense. $7 trillion on nonsense.
We've got
And I
another
actually
question from a
said,
voter tonight.
get all of that money that was wasted, and if they don't get rid of that, you'll have to default. I think if the Republicans hold strong and they say we want $5 trillion off, I really think the Democrats have no choice but to do it. And if I win, they're going to be doing the same thing to me in 2 years. I guarantee you that.
Mr. President,
they're
we've
going to
got
play a
another
very
voter here
hardball game,
tonight.
and they did that before.
Bobby Petrino has been waiting very patiently.
Sure.
He's a student at St. Anselm.
How would you act not only to defend our Second Amendment rights, but to restore rights that have been taken from us, such as, by example, recently the ATF's ruling on the pistol stabilizing braces?
It's not the gun that pulls the trigger. It's the person that pulls the trigger. And we have to protect our Second Amendment. You know, there's a certain country that had a very strict policy on guns, very, very strict.
Which country?
And, Brazil, okay? Brazil, very strict. And the killing was incredible. They were walking into people's homes and killing people. They had no protection. People went out and bought guns, and it went way down. The numbers went way down because they had security. Chicago has the single toughest gun policies in the nation. All of those places are the worst and most dangerous places. So that's not the answer.
No new restrictions that you would sign if reelected, Mr. President?
How do you plan to appeal to women voters in New Hampshire who are concerned about the Dobbs decision and how states may change their laws?
Everybody that was president wanted to get rid and tried to get rid of Roe v. Wade.
You mean
for 50
Republicans?
years. Republicans. For 50 years, I was able to do it, and I was very honored to do it. But by doing it, things are happening that are very, very positive. And the way I look, I think it's very important to say this. I consider the other side to be radical because the other side, under Roe v. Wade and other things, the other side, they're radical. They will kill the baby in the 9th month. If you look at that crazy governor of Virginia, the former governor, where he said, no, the baby will be born, and then we'll decide essentially whether or not to execute the baby.
But, Mr. President, can we talk about what you would do if
no, but these are the radical people.
Reelected?
It's not the pro-life people that are radical.
But if you are reelected and you're back in the Oval Office and you get legislation to your desk, would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
It's a trap.
What I'll do is negotiate so that people are happy. I want to do what's right, and we're looking, and we want to do what's right for everybody.
But what's right?
But now, for the first time, the people that are pro-life have negotiating capability. They could kill the baby in the 9th month or after the baby was born. Now they won't be able to do that.
But I think this is a really important question for you to answer.
A lot of people said in 150 years, he's now the most consequential president because he saved so many lives. And I'm honored to have done it. And because of what I've done, we now have a great negotiating ability. That's what I do in life. I negotiate. We have a great negotiating ability, and I think we're going to be able to get something done.
But what do you mean negotiating ability? Because the question that Republicans have, if they send it to your desk, would you sign it?
It's a trap. Some people are at 6 weeks. Some people are at 3 weeks,
Where's
2
President
weeks.
Trump?
President Trump is going to make a determination what he thinks is great for the country and what's fair for the country. We did something that nobody thought was doable. And other Republican presidents, they wanted to get it out. They also wanted to bring it back to the states. But bringing it back to the states is a less important issue
But that's why
than
it's
the
the
issue that
question
we
about a
just talked
federal
about.
abortion ban. You
Well,
did not say yes or no to that.
It
You did not
depends
say how many
it
weeks.
depends what the deal is. Lindsey Graham's
You did not say
a good
how many
man.
weeks.
He's got an idea, and a lot of other people have an idea. And I look at all the different
And a lot of
ideas,
people will
and
be
I'll make
curious
the,
what
I'll
your
make the right
idea is
decision.
on that. President Trump, we've got more questions to come for you tonight.
I'll
We'll
make
be
the right
right back
decision for the
in just a moment.
How will a Trump administration slow down the rate of migrants coming across all our borders?
Sure. A very fair question, especially since tomorrow is going to be a day of infamy. You're going to have millions of people pouring into our country right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. These people are sick. Anybody that wants this to happen to our country, they're destroying our country. So we have enough problems right now. We have problems like we've never had in the history of our country.
But Mr. President,
our country is being destroyed.
The reason it's ending is because the health policy, the COVID era pandemic emergency is coming to an end. That's what Title 42 was. You put it in place because
That's
of COVID.
true, but
when it comes to big questions about what your immigration policy would look like, some of your Republican rivals have criticized you for not fulfilling the promises that you made, like finishing the border wall.
I did finish the wall. I built a wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and I finished it. And then I said, we have to build some more because there are areas where a lot of people are coming. You close up one, and they come into another. And we started another 100 miles of wall. In fact, I said to my people, if we start this and don't finish it, and then we had a rigged election, I'm sorry to say it.
The election was not rigged, Mr.
good,
President. You can't
I'm
keep
glad
saying
you're
that all
saying
night long.
And so
You cannot
then
keep saying
they
that the
took
election
over
was
and they
rigged.
decided not to finish it. It would have taken them 3 weeks. A country has to have borders. There's never been anything like is happening to our country right now.
You built about 52 miles of new wall when you were in office, Mr. President. It wasn't the complete wall.
This is what she does. If there's a piece of wood laying down, they consider that a wall. I built 30-foot walls that go down 7 feet into the ground. If there was a little piece of wood sitting in the ground, they said, oh, he's not building a wall. We already had a wall. Because this is the game. They're a party of disinformation.
It's not a game, Mr. President. It's about 52 miles of new wall. One other immigration policy you had when you were in office.
I built new wall.
52 miles
for hundreds of miles.
CBP, Mr.
What I did is I
President.
replaced other wall that was laying down, rotting in the ground for 30 years. Some of it was steel that you couldn't even see.
Mr. President, it was only about 52 miles of new wall, but
This bickering is pointless.
moving on, another immigration policy you had was the zero-tolerance immigration policy that separated families at the border. If you are reelected, are you ruling out instituting that?
Well, when you have that policy, people don't come. If a family hears that they're going to be separated, they love their family. They don't come. So I know it sounds harsh, but if you remember they said I was building prisons for children. It turned out that it was Obama that was building the prisons for the children.
But would you re-implement that if you're reelected? Is that what you're saying?
We have to save our country, all right? We
So it
can't
sounds
afford,
like that's a yes.
No. When you say to a family that if you come, we're going to break you up, they don't come. And we can't afford to have any more. Our whole country is being destroyed. Millions of people are coming into our country. And you know what the number is going to be, in my opinion, by the end of the year? Not the 4 million that you hear and the 3 million and 2. I think it's going to be 15 million people. And in these people, they have no idea where they come from. They come from 129 different countries so far. 120, not just the 4 that we talked about.
Just to put a button on that, it sounds like what you're saying is that you're not ruling out re-implementing that immigration policy. I want to get to another voter. Caitlin Boissonneau is a student here at St. Anselm College.
How would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
If I were president, this would have never happened. And even the Democrats admit that. And his pipeline would have never happened. A lot of things would have never happened. But this would never have happened. And all those dead people, both Russian and Ukrainian, they wouldn't be dead today. We've given so far $171 billion. They've given, meaning European Union, they've given about 20. They're a little bit more affected than we are. They've got to put up a lot more money because they're taking advantage of us like every other country did. That's why I ended NAFTA and replaced it with the USMCA, Mexico,
But on
Canada.
this issue, Mr. President, would you continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected? What's the answer?
I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky because, as you know, he backed me up with the phony impeachment hoax number one when he said, the president didn't do anything wrong. So
that was
I happen
when you
to
asked
like.
him for an investigation.
So I happen to like. Yeah,
weapons.
that's right. And I was totally exonerated, by the way. Just a waste of time and money.
You were impeached over that. You were impeached over that. But let's stay on topic here, Mr. President, because the question is, would you give Ukraine weapons
I was
and funding?
impeached by a crazy woman named Nancy
But
Pelosi.
Guess who's back?
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in 1 day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in 1 day?
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely over.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. Now,
can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying, Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying.
Basically saying he would turn over Ukraine to Vladimir Putin.
I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win. You
know what I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they should be, and they should equalize. I got with NATO. When I sat down, I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and all of these other presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war because of the money I got. But I want Europe.
What's happening in Ukraine, Mr.
I want Europe to put up more money because they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending $170 billion for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land, and they're in for 20. I don't think so.
When you were in office, you said that you respected President Putin. Do you still respect him today?
He made a tremendous mistake. He was a smart guy, you know. I remember I said he was smart, she was smart.
What was his mistake?
He said President Xi of China, right, is smart. How dare he say he's smart? Of course he's smart. And Putin made a bad mistake, in my opinion.
What was his mistake?
His mistake was going in. He would have never gone in if I was president. We used to talk about it there.
Do you believe that Putin is a war criminal?
Wait for it.
He's responsible for the deaths of thousands of Ukrainian men and women and
I think it's something that should not be discussed now. It should be discussed later. Because right now we have to get a war. If you say he's a war criminal, it's going to be a lot tougher to make a deal to get this thing stopped. Because if he's going to be a war criminal where people are going to go and grab him and execute him, he's going to fight a lot harder than he's fighting, you know, under the other circumstance. That's something to be discussed at a later date. Right now, we want to get that war settled.
The special counsel's investigation into classified documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago. Why did you take those documents with you when you left the White House?
I had every right to under the Presidential Records Act. You have the Presidential Records Act. I was there, and I took what I took, and it gets declassified. Biden, on the other hand, he has 1,850 boxes. He had boxes sent to Chinatown, where they don't speak even English in that Chinatown we're talking about.
I got to stop you right there.
Nobody talks about him. They talk about us. I didn't make a secret of it. You know, the boxes were stationed outside of the White House. People were taking pictures of the GSA of the various people.
I got to stop you right there, though, because the Presidential Records Act, it does not say that you can take documents with you. It says actually that they are the property of the federal government.
It says you talk, you negotiate, you make a deal. It's not criminal, by the way. The Presidential Records Act is not criminal. Just so you know.
It does not say you can negotiate to take the documents with you.
Can I tell you?
Did the president actually have, under the Presidential Records Act, a right of access and custody of these documents? That's never been litigated under the Presidential Records Act. They took everything from Mar-a-Lago except the chandeliers and the carpeting. I mean, they took hundreds of personal items, newspapers, books, clothing, for goodness sakes.
I think they were looking for documents that would go back to January 6th. I frankly think that the Justice Department want to find evidence that would link President Trump to some kind of January 6th conspiracy. And I think they want to haul him off into court. And all this is designed to prevent him from running for president.
The government didn't find what they were looking for. There weren't nuclear secrets in Melania Trump's underwear drawer.
This is unprecedented. By the Constitution, the president has broad authority. He is essentially the executive branch to declassify documents.
I took the documents I'm allowed to. You know who else took them? Obama took them. Nixon took them.
Obama
Reagan
did not
took
take
them.
documents.
Oh, he didn't?
The difference here that I'd like
Take
to
a
note.
look.
The
Reagan
National
took
Archive
them.
says that President Obama
Even
did
Jimmy
not
Carter,
take
even Mike
documents.
Pence had some documents, and he's a
You
very
referenced
honorable
Pence,
guy.
you referenced
But you know who
Biden.
took them more than anybody is Joe Biden. He has 1,800 boxes.
That's
And
not
nobody
accurate,
even
Mr.
knows where
President,
they
and you
are.
know that.
1,800, and nobody talks about him.
Mr. President,
And they
that's not accurate.
and they put a rough guy on us, and they in the
I think
meantime
it's
they have
important, Mr.
nobody.
President, to actually set the record straight here. When they realized they had documents, they turned them back over. The difference is that you waited to turn yours over, and it was
Excuse
a year and a
me.
half effort that included a subpoena. But
They
you had
didn't raid.
you'd gotten a
They didn't
subpoena,
raid
and they had not
Biden's
been
house.
turned over yet.
They didn't raid Biden's house. You know what happened? The vice president cannot declassify. He didn't have the right to declassify. He has documents from when he was a senator.
Finish her.
I went by the Presidential Records Act,
That's not
and
what
we
the
were
Presidential
negotiating
Records
with
Act
NARA.
says. That's not what it says,
And
Mr.
NARA has
President.
red flagged a thing called the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights because they consider them
Mr.
dangerous
President, that's
documents.
not what it
Those
says,
are the
and I
people
should
we're
note.
dealing
And
with.
I should note that there is a special counsel investigating your document situation, also President Biden's document situation. Did you ever show those classified documents to anyone?
Not really. I would have the right to. By the way, they were
What do you mean, not
declassified
really?
after. Not that I can think of. I have the absolute right to do whatever I want with them. I was negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely
negotiate
left group
with
of
them.
people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with
They're
them.
not
All of a
left,
sudden,
they're
they
bipartisan.
raided my house. They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return
Are
them.
you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Fatality.
Can you answer why you
simple.
held on to the documents?
I was negotiating, and we were talking to NARA. They can have whatever they want. Everybody knew we were taking those boxes. And the GSA, the government service, the GSA was the one taking them. They brought them down to Mar-a-Lago. We were negotiating with NARA. All of a sudden, they raid our house. When Biden had his documents, he won't give back the 1,850 boxes. And you're going to find some real gems in there.
But it was
So
Biden
you
who
can't have
alerted
all
them that
these
he had
different
the
sets of-
documents.
all
The
these
National
different
Archives
sets of-
reached out to you to get your documents back. Why did you not turn them over when you got a subpoena
Because we were
asking for you to turn
negotiating
them
with
over?
them. We were negotiating with NARA.
That's not what the
Very nice
Presidential
people,
Records Act says. I've
but they
seen
got to
it.
love our Constitution a little bit more. Richard Nixon, he had a lot of problems dealing with NARA, and they ended up passing legislation
they
called the
created the
Presidential
PRA.
Records Act just for this kind of a thing. We were
My
dealing
last
with them. We
question
were
on this
talking.
sub- on
Excuse me.
this
Wait a
subject,
minute.
Mr.
Wait.
President.
We were talking to them, but all of a sudden they raided the house. Now, why hasn't the FBI raided Biden?
But I just explained to you
Why?
why.
No.
It's because he's the one, they alerted the
1,850
government that they
okay.
had those documents. Do you still have any classified documents in your possession?
No, I don't have anything. I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them. But
No, you
why?
have to declassify
Let me
them.
ask you a question. Why is it that Biden had 9 boxes in Chinatown? And he gets a lot of money from China. Why is that? And
There
why,
is no
why
evidence
aren't
of that,
people?
Mr. President. No, you
no,
cannot
why
say
aren't
that. There
people
is no
bringing that
evidence
up?
of that, Mr.
And why don't they
President.
put this
What
guy
you're
Jack
referring
Smith
to
and his
is an
group
office
of
that he
group
had.
of thugs?
Mr.
Why don't
President,
they put him in charge of that?
I need to stop you right there because there's no evidence of what you just said there. What you're referring to there is an office that he had after leaving
That's at the University
vice
of Pennsylvania.
presidency
Wrong.
investigation
You're so
that you're
wrong.
facing.
You don't know the subject.
I do know the subject.
He had
and I
one
do
at
know the
University
facts,
of
Mr.
Pennsylvania,
President.
but he also had
I want
9
to move
boxes
on to another
in
investigation
Chinatown.
that you're facing, which is the one
She
that's
doesn't
happening
understand
in
it.
Georgia, where they are investigating there your efforts to overturn the election results in the state of Georgia.
I did nothing wrong. It was a perfect
that,
phone call.
let me finish my question. At the center of that is that call that you had with the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, sure.
Given the fact that there are indictments expected to come in that case this summer, is that a call you would make again today?
Yeah, I called questioning the election. I thought it was a rigged election. I thought it had a lot of problems.
You asked him to find you votes.
I didn't ask him to find anything.
We've heard the audio tape, Mr. President. There's an audio of you asking him to find you 11,000 something votes.
You owe me votes because the election was rigged. That election was rigged. And if this call was bad, why didn't him and his lawyers hang up? How dare you say that? This was a perfect
Well, they were
phone
clearly
call.
concerned enough. They recorded the call, and I should note that, of course...
This was a call that was made to question the results of election. And when we can't make a call to question election results, then this country ought to just forget about it.
You weren't just questioning the election results.
I was
you were
questioning
asking
the
him
election.
to find you votes. And I should note that there is no evidence of fraud. There is no rigged election in the state of Georgia. I want to get back to the audience, though, Mr. President. Will you commit tonight to accepting the results of the 2024 election?
Yeah, if I think it's an honest election, absolutely, I would.
Will you commit to accepting the results of the election regardless of the outcome?
You want me to answer it again? If I think it's an honest election, I would be honored to.
But no commitment there on the accepting the results regardless of the outcome?
If it's an honest election, correct, I will.
Okay, so not committing to accepting the 2024 election results or acknowledging what happened in 2020. President Trump, I want to thank you for coming here tonight. This is an important conversation. St. Anselm College, CNN's coverage continues with Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper.
Thank you very much, Katie. Good job.
Mr. Trump's first lie was told just seconds into the night. And the falsehoods kept coming fast and furious about the January 6th insurrection, about the threat to Vice President Pence, about Pence's ability to overturn the election, about COVID, about the economy, and more. He called a black law enforcement officer a thug. He said people here in Washington, D.C. at Chinatown don't speak English. He attacked Caitlin as a nasty woman because she was trying to get him to answer a question. Perhaps most chillingly, the day after a 9-person jury of his peers in New York found him liable for sexual battery and defamation and ordered him to pay writer E. Jean Carroll $5 million, he made fun of her account of her sexual assault. And many in the audience laughed.
And applauded.
It's pretty clear that he is going to continue to tell that lie, not just to conservative media, but unbiased, straight down the middle media.
Before we begin with tonight's broadcast, I want to say something about what we witnessed at last night's town hall. Many of you are upset that someone who attempted to destroy our democracy was invited to sit on a stage in front of a crowd of Republican voters to answer questions, and I get it. It was disturbing. It was disturbing to see and hear that person refer to a black law enforcement officer as a thug, an adjective he used many times to describe black men, and call Caitlin Collins, the moderator, nasty, which is what he calls any woman who stands up to him. The man you were so disturbed to see and hear from last night, that man is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president. You have every right to be outraged today and angry and never watch this network again.
Now the Washington Post reports that CNN is facing a, quote, tsunami of criticism, as well as not only outside critics, and everyone's free to debate this, but from journalists inside CNN itself.
I know you said earlier that you will not comment on the platforming of such atrocious disinformation, but I would. I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
What I saw last night, at least, was as chilling as anything I've seen on television since January the 6th.
He is running on an explicitly authoritarian program.
He still claims he doesn't know E. Jean Carroll, and the case against him is a witch hunt. And he did it in front of a room of Republican voters who laughed.
Does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first, how do you feel about those lies?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election, rather than current stuff.
So don't you think he could say it's time for me to start talking about 2024 and not lies that aren't true?
Couldn't the media ask him a question about 2024?
Well, there were questions, but you're right, that was the first thing, but that's something that was on our mind, and that's why I was asked first.
What stood out in your mind about Trump's performance?
It was brilliant. He was very effective. You can tell from every liberal having a meltdown on TV today.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership
private enterprise, but total government control and regulation. Well, isn't this the liberal philosophy? The conservative, so-called, is the one that says, less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.